I'm hoping they're not like too sensitive and that you can hear all our mouth sounds.
Oh, you said mouth sounds. I hate that. Okay.
Okay.
Hey, it's Megan
And Sue,
the Spine Breakers. And today we are going to be doing a November reading wrap-up.
Wrap-up. Sorry, I didn't have my books in front of me.
I couldn't remember what month last month was again.
Also, we finally got microphones, and hopefully they sound better than the way we sounded before, but let us know what you think.
Yes, please tell us what you think of our sound.
So while we're doing this wrap-up, we're going to be drinking The Witch.
Whoa. It is a black ale with rosemary, sage, and black currant by Torn Label.
Yes, let me get close because it's...
Yeah, it's a cool label. Can label.
Yeah, and Torn Label is in Kansas City, Missouri. Ooh, it's like pinky colored.
That's weird for a black ale.
Well, it might be the red currant.
Yeah, it probably is.
Or black currant. I don't know if you can tell, but it has kind of a reddish color, but it is very dark.
It smells good.
It does. Smells like, I can smell that sage and rosemary.
Me too.
Not as flavorful as I would have expected.
No, but very interesting flavor. Because I can definitely taste the dark of the black ale, but it's got almost like a really carbonated fruity taste in there with layered in with it.
A little tart.
It is, but it's not like a sour tart. Like I can drink this and not feel like my tummy is gonna hate me.
Yeah, this is interesting though. I like it, and it's got a cool witchy aesthetic.
I love it.
So we're into that.
We dig it. Hey, you guys are gonna have to not, because I'm all mic'd up and stuff and I don't wanna.
Oh yeah.
So you're gonna have to just not.
Just like, God damn it. You might not be able to hear the pitter patter of feet as much.
Which they are throwing kind of a fit,
Yeah.
so.
I mean, you can pause and let them out if you want to.
So I read a total of 4 books in November.
I read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Woo! Killing it.
So I'll go first.
Yeah, definitely.
And the first book I finished was Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier, a classic that I finally read. I thought that I had read this book for the longest time, but I was confusing it with something else. I think I was confusing it with Lorna Doone for some reason. Okay, well. Which is not the same at all, I don't think. But this is, I don't want to say too much about it because it's definitely one of those books that it's better if you don't really know what's going on.
Okay.
But it's about a young woman who marries this man, and she goes to live with him. He's very rich. She goes to live with him at Manderley, his estate, and is kind of haunted by his previous wife.
Oh no.
Rebecca. And it's really a slow burn.
Okay.
But once shit starts happening, it fucking goes, man.
Damn. All right.
And I ended up really loving this. It was my predicted 5-star read for our If You Gotta Read It challenge. And it was a 5-star read for me. It definitely lived up to the hype that I've heard.
That makes me happy. I like that.
But yeah, it was so good. So I would definitely recommend it to anyone.
Why don't you go again?
Alrighty. So next I listened to an audiobook, and it was The Bride Test by Helen Hoang, and it was read by Emily Wu Zeller. And this is actually the sequel to The Kiss Quotient, which I didn't realize until I was halfway through it.
Shit.
I don't know why I didn't put that together. Which I wasn't the biggest fan of The Kiss Quotient, but I actually liked this one better. So I'm glad I listened to it. But in this one, we're following a young woman named May, or she goes by Esme for much of the book as well, but she's from Vietnam and comes to the United States because she meets a woman in Vietnam who asks her if she will come to the U.S. for the summer and try to woo her son. She's trying to find a wife for her son.
Wow, okay.
And her son, Kai, has autism. And so he's never really, like, he has trouble with relationships.
Okay.
And he also has, like, sort of has a false belief about himself that he's, like, incapable of emotion.
Okay.
So he's not interested at all
in relationships,
in romantic relationships in any way, shape, or form. But she comes to live with him for the summer. He reluctantly agrees to let her live with him and kind of turns his world upside down.
Oh.
So I actually really liked this one. I liked their dynamic. I thought it was also kind of an interesting look into why women might choose to, like, marry for a green card. Not that that's what she was doing in here, but it's like, I feel like people pass judgment a lot
but like it
on
makes
people for, like,
sense why you would do that.
Yeah, but you kind of get their side of the story of, like, why she might want to do that and she has a daughter as well, so it's like trying to find a better life for her and her daughter. Yeah, it feels like it's been, like, forever since I've read these books. For some reason, it is like a week into December at this point. But I did really enjoy that one. I think I gave it 4 stars.
Nice. The first book that I finished in November was actually our book club book. It was Meridian by Alice Walker. So that was kind of a short little book about this woman named Meridian, who, I mean, it's basically just her kind of life story, I guess. I mean, it's her growing up and talks about how she got involved in activism and why she got involved in activism. And it talks about some of her more complex relationships. And I thought it was really good. There were some really interesting dynamics in that book. I don't want to spoil it.
Yeah. I think especially her dynamics with Black men in particular, I would say.
Yeah. I think, like, her relationship, I would say, like, with all the men in the book, I think was really interesting because I think she remained herself and she remained unchanged throughout those relationships. I mean, those relationships didn't change who she was, and she just was who she was, but it seemed like each of the men she was involved with were involved with her for what they could get from her, for what she said about them. And I thought that, it was an interesting book.
Yeah.
I liked it. But yeah, so I think I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I liked it.
Yeah, I also read that one in November and also gave it 4 out of 5 stars. But the next book I actually read was A Taste of Power, A Black Woman's Story by Elaine Brown. And this is a nonfiction book. It's her story of kind of her life story. Well, it kind of ends after she leaves the Black Panther Party. Okay. But she was the first and only woman to be leader of the Black Panther Party. So it tells her story of, like, growing up and then how she got to that point and then her leaving the party. Right. And it does end kind of abruptly. It's just like,
we're done.
She's out and there's no, like, reflection. So it is kind of more autobiographical than, like, a memoir. It's just kind of, like, states the facts. She doesn't really like reflect on a lot of things. But I found it really interesting. I went into it with little to no knowledge of the Black Panther Party. Like most people in the United States, I, in school, just kind of barely learned about the Black Panther Party, and what we did learn was kind of like they were bad. They were like a domestic terrorist organization.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely taught like it's...
someone desperately needs insight.
Oh my God. It's taught as like a bad thing, like a domestic terrorist organization.
Yeah, and same with like Malcolm X. Like we barely learn anything about Malcolm X, and it's just like he was violent, and which isn't really true.
Right.
So I got a more complete picture of what the Black Panther Party was like, and I do think it was somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
There was good things about it and bad things about it, just like with most
As with
things.
most things, right?
And she really talks, or, you know, her experience as a woman was like not always very positive. And yeah, it was interesting because I was reading this. I'm in 2 book clubs now. And I was reading this for one of my book clubs, and I was reading Meridian for our book club. And they actually had a lot in common. Because there's a lot about in Meridian about like how Black men kind of, you know, they're trying to hold on to the power they have, which is as a man. You know, they have that power over women. And so Black men at the time, at least from the way they're portrayed in these books, were pretty misogynistic.
Right. They exercised the power that they had in really toxic and unhelpful ways because they were subjugated for so long that they, you know. And
so it's extra extraordinary that she actually led the Black Panther Party, however briefly it was. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. There were some like parts that there was a lull in places that I had a hard time getting through, like the first 20% or so, because I just like hit a block where but after got through that and started talking more about the Black Panther Party, I thought it was really interesting and I enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars.
Nice. The next book that I finished was Hot Blood, Tales of Erotic Horror, edited by Jeff Gelb and Lonn Friend. So this is the first book in the exciting saga that is the Hot Blood saga. It is a compilation of horror erotica short stories. And if you've been around our channel at all, then you're probably familiar with this collection. So Hot Blood was, of the 3 that I've read, this one was probably the least erotic.
Oh no, this cord's gonna be in the way.
Oh, balls.
Oh no.
Murphy, don't wreak havoc here with this cord.
He's fine.
Okay. But yeah, this was probably the least erotic of all of them. It was not, so Hotter Blood was probably the best as far as like erotica. Like it was probably the most erotic. Hottest Blood was the most problematic of the 3. And this one was probably like the best quality of story of the 3. But none of them were super terrifying and none of them were super erotic. But yeah, there was definitely some interesting stuff in here. You may have seen our talk about The Thang.
The Thang.
I can't say enough about horror erotica, friends. Like I feel like it's just so weird and delightful. And I love it.
It really is.
So I think I gave this like 3 stars out of 5, but it was a fun time.
Next, I listened to another audiobook called Alien Space Tentacle Porn by Peter Cawdron.
I love it.
And it was read by McLeod Andrews.
Smurf.
Is that how you pronounce that? McLeod?
McLeod.
McLeod?
McLeod.
McLeod. I should know. I'm Scottish.
Well, shit, Susan.
Oh no.
Oh no. Okay, now you have to stay over here because now we have you situated.
So it was read by McLeod Andrews, and this isn't porn.
Damn it.
Bummer. But it's just kind of a fun romp about a guy who gets like mixed up with these aliens they've been found out by the government, so they're like trying to run, and he just gets in these interesting situations. So yeah, it was just a good time.
That sounds like fun.
I wouldn't say it was anything fantastic, I think, but I enjoyed it, you know?
Yeah, it was a fun read.
Right. I think I gave it 3.5 stars.
Not too shabby.
Should I go again?
Sure.
Next, I have another audiobook called Spoiler Alert by Olivia Dade, and it was read by Isabel Ruther. And this is a romance. About a woman who is a big fan of this television show that is very Game of Thrones-esque, and she writes fan fiction about it. And then one day, she decides to post a picture on Twitter of herself cosplaying as her favorite character from the show. And she attracts some online bullies because she is a plus-size woman.
And people on the internet
people are dicks. And so the actor who plays that character's love interest actually asks her out to dinner.
Hey.
As like a, hey, stop being a dick to this woman. Hey. She's lovely. And he kind of has this reputation of being very like vapid and just, he's just a pretty face kind of. So she's not really like into him as a person. But there's a person from her fanfic forum who she's been corresponding with for a long time, who's a man who she is into. And this man writes fan fiction. Turns out secretly they're the same person. And so
see, I kind of love that trope, like that premise. I like that.
Yeah.
That sounds fun.
And I actually really enjoyed this one. I flew through it because I was just very invested right away. And, you know, obviously I found the main character, April, relatable. I don't write fanfic, but I read it, and I'm a plus-size woman. So I get it. And so, you know, warning, there is like mentions of fat phobia in the book. But she's very like, she's past the point of it really bothering her too much, you know? Like she's to the point where she realizes that like, that's those people's problem and not her problem. So I thought it was a pretty good portrayal of, you know, a fat woman. And I liked them both as individual characters as well. I dug it.
Sounds pretty cool.
I think I gave it 4 stars.
I might actually check that one out. That sounds pretty cool. I finished The Ballad of Black Tom by Victor LeValle. This is a novella. It's only like 150 some pages. I saw it on like Book Riot deals of the day because those always get me, and bought it on my Kindle. And it was really, I'm trying to see, I feel like it's been 100 years since I've read it.
Whoa. Sorry, I got like a tingle in my ear. It made me shiver.
Ghosts. But yeah, I feel like it's been a long time since I've read it, but it was good. It was kind of like, I would say it's probably atmospherically creepy more than anything. It's not directly creepy, but it is, it sneaks up on you. And yeah, I mean, like I said, I feel like it's been a long time since I've read it, so I can't remember it super well. Maybe that's a sign that it wasn't like fantastic.
Amazing.
I didn't rate it. I think I'd probably rate it like 3.5 stars or so. Because I did enjoy it. I did kind of like, even though it's a novella, like I started reading it and then got bored with it and like switched to something else. And so it made, you know, and then I came back to it. So I think that like it being interrupted is affecting my like memory of it. So
yeah. All right, so the last book that I finished was The Glimpses of the Moon by Edith Wharton, and this was actually on my TBR for the If You Gotta Read It readathon, but I ended up finishing it before the beginning of the readathon. But it is about this couple who, they aren't rich, but they have a lot of rich friends, and so they end up getting married to like cash in on the gifts and things that their rich friends will give them. But they kind of do this with the understanding that like they'll split up at some point if they find a rich person to marry. Oh God. Basically. And so it is like kind of a rare sort of comedy of errors. I mean, I've only read, act like I'm an expert on Edith Wharton. I haven't read that many of her books, but all the other books I've read of hers have been tragedies. Oh. And this one is definitely more of a comedy. But yeah, so it's kind of about them both realizing that maybe there's more to life than money. And in Edith Wharton fashion, it doesn't end with like and they lived happily ever after ending. Right. Like it's still a little like, you know, there's some sadness, I guess, as well. A little bit of, I guess, skepticism. Okay. Edith Wharton seems like she wasn't much of a romantic. I don't know.
I can appreciate that.
But I love Edith Wharton. I don't know what it is about her that just gets me. But I've loved everything I've read by her, and I plan to read everything I can by her.
That's pretty awesome.
So think I ended up giving this like 4.5 stars.
Nice.
Like, it was like almost a 5-star read, but it wasn't quite there. But I really, really enjoyed it.
That's pretty cool. Last up for me, if you're gonna go back over there, we gotta go under. Thanks, Bubba. He's like,
His microphones don't work so well
with
with a dog and
with my pitiful ass dog and my demanding ass dog. Okay, so the final book that I finished in November was A Head Full of Ghosts by Paul Tremblay. Paul Tremblay is an author that I started hearing about because of like BookTube and Book Twitter and stuff, because I feel like he's a pretty well-known horror author. I think I had read an article and it was like most disturbing scenes in a horror novel, or horror novels that'll like make it hard for you to sleep at night or something. Like one of the scenes from that novel was on the list or in the article. And so I bought it on my Kindle, and it's this story about this family who allowed themselves to be filmed for a reality show called The Exorcism after the older teenage sister was diagnosed with schizophrenia, and her dad got like really fervent into religious fanaticism and believed her to be possessed. And so he kind of got involved with the church and brought all of that about. And so the book takes place like 15 years later or something, and it's the younger sister, who I think was like 8 or 9 at the time of the show, like going back and like talking to a writer who's going to write a story about it or a book about it, and she's like kind of recounting the story. So it has an unreliable narrator, which I dig, because she was a child for most of what happened, and then like there are some things about her as an adult that you're like, but I think like throughout the book they were trying to build suspense between the question of like, is this mental illness plus her messing around, or is this possession? And I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but there is quite a twist at the end that I was not expecting. And the book is really like, I mean, it's kind of creepy, but I wouldn't call it scary or, you know, even really true horror, because I feel like it's
more like psychological.
Yeah, like it kind of gets in your head a little bit, and it's kind of tragic, and it's very fascinating, and I really liked it. I gave it 4 to 5 stars. I thought it was good. I'm going to read some more by Paul Tremblay because I really dug that. So yeah, I liked it. It was my favorite read of November for sure.
So that's all, right?
That's all. That's it.
Let us know if you've read any of these, what your thoughts were. This beer, I like it.
It's pretty good. Like I said, I mean, it's got a really complex taste to it.
You can definitely taste that, like rosemary.
Definitely.
Let us know what you think of our sound quality.
Yeah.
Is it good enough, or is there too many interferences? I don't know.
Let us know what you think, because we're winging it.
Yeah.
We're trying this out.
It only took us 5 years to get microphones.
That's kind of how we
I
do
did try
things.
once before, in my defense, and it
did.
sounded like the microphone I got sounded worse than our normal audio. So
I remember that.
Returned it. That was our November wrap up.
So thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.